browsing. Treading water that they drowning. My head on a swivel, yeah. It's only really my surroundings.
Hello and welcome to episode 150 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. Guys, it is draft season. I mean, this is the greatest time of year. I did 13 of them yesterday, and I'm sitting here trying to juggle it all, and it was just chaos, pandemonium. So much fun, though. Nothing more fun than chopping it up with these two guys, Mung and John. It's draft season, man. Like, this is so exciting. It's that time of year that we love. But man, John, I mean, as you've been finding out, it can be stressful too. Like, we're trying to make these deals, and it's just been a crazy couple of days.
Yeah, I got multiple rookie drafts going on right now. I have a startups. Shout out to Smash 10. Mung and I are competing there in Smash 10, and that startup, we'll have to break some of that down for you guys. But yeah, I got to tell you, I really thought it was just going to be a ton of fun doing this punt and doing this rookie draft where I got all these first. It's actually been kind of stressful because you got so much going on. You're trying to work up trades, and it really becomes a challenge to move all of it. But we'll have to break that down and kind of share some of the stuff we're learning along the way.
We made some trades in there, which
we did.
That one's trending on Twitter. It's pretty big. And, like, I think the biggest thing when you're doing those punts, and I was talking about with Zoltan, because that's something that him and I have been doing a ton of, it's like you almost have to just understand you're not going to get everybody. You want everyone to fall where you want to, just like it is in the NFL draft where we wanted everybody to fall to the right places, and we just have to understand it's like, we were talking about when you have one pick, it's like, okay, that's my guy, I'm going to move into that area.
Exactly.
When you have 12 first, when you have 9 first, then it's like, no, I want to make sure I get all of these. And in the back of my head, I'm like, watch the guy at 201 pop off. Watch the guy at 201 be the Justin Jefferson, and I just ruined the whole thing. Mung, Smash 10's going on. You have not drafted since Smash 1 in one of the Smash leagues. How's that going, and what's going on with you with all of your rookie drafts?
Yeah, it's been a crazy busy week since the NFL draft. Worked all weekend to update my dynasty rankings, 1QB and Superflex. Those are up at Fantrax. I've been working on some sleeper articles. And like John said, we are doing the Smash 10 startup right now. I got sniped at 107. Lamar Jackson went one pick before me, so I had to pivot there and trade back. And it's been a lot of fun. Got a couple rookie drafts going simultaneously as well. So just basically my phone blowing up with sleeper notifications every 30 seconds. But it's a crazy good kind of busy, right?
Hashtag Dynasty Life.
And so I spent most of the day, I actually took the day off, and spent most of the day working on all of the Patreon stuff. So now we have positional rankings for every single rookie position broken down with tiers, and we have the top 48 Superflex, the top 48 one quarterback, everything just broken into tiers now so you guys can see it. I think the coolest part about this is, I was juggling those 9 drafts, but I was trying to answer questions for everybody in the Patreon. We set that up where guys have on the clock assistance of what's going on with your rookie draft. So if you guys haven't checked it out, it's patreon.com/Smash Accept. Guys, I mean, right now for the money, you guys are getting draft assistance, you're getting draft content. I mean, this is literally the best that you can possibly get from myself, John, Mung, Snoog, and then a group now. It's almost up over 100 people where they're just kind of chit-chatting and talking Dynasty 24/7. So quick shout out to that. Guys, it's rookie draft season, and the thing with me right now is we do this every year, Mung. We talk about everything in Dynasty cyclical, right? And in 22, we said we're going to buy the 23s. And then we get to 23, and now everybody seems to want to buy 24s. Like we have a draft class here that we had 3 quarterbacks go in the top 4. We had 2 running backs go in the top 12. 4 wide receivers go in the first round. An elite tight end going to the dream position. And it's like, just because Zach Charbonnet went to Seattle, everyone's like, well, not everything's lining up. Just because Seattle messed up that JSN couldn't go to the Chargers. It's like, now everybody's talking about 2024. And I mean, this blows my mind, Mung. We talk about it all the time, but this class really is special. But we're just trying to move on to the next grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, and I would say the most important thing to keep in mind as you're going through your rookie drafts is to have conviction. right? These are your dynasty teams. We're here to give you advice. We're here to give you rankings. We have the players that we love. But if you want to get your guy, I will never say absolutely don't do that. I'll say I don't like the value there, or I would try to trade back first. But if you love Quentin Johnston over Jackson Smith-Njigba and you can't trade back for whatever reason, then hey, go ahead and grab him, because we've seen time and time again over the last few years, right? How many people faded Josh Allen? Justin Jefferson was, I believe, the third rookie wide receiver off the boards in most drafts that year. So if you really do, if you've done your research, if you've listened to other experts, podcasts, articles, whatever it is, and you believe in your guy, go get him.
John, this class you and I have hyped up for months, right? And we set up things to do punts, we set up things to do rebuilds based around this class. I personally I in Smash 3 drafted an entire team. I mean, I got literally everybody in the top 15. But talk to me a little bit about this process that's frustrating for you, because what I'm seeing is, like, we talked about it in 2022, let's move to 2023. This 23 class is 10 deep at the top, and 11 and 12 are a little bit like, pick your guy, try to figure it out. But that top 10 is instant difference makers. And when you're doing a startup right now, 4 guys, 3 to 4, depending on what you're looking at, go top 2 rounds. 6 guys go top 3 rounds. We're talking about guys that you paid for a rookie pick are going in the top 3 rounds this year. That is insane, because that didn't happen last year. And we're still downplaying it like it's not something that's absolutely special.
Yeah, I really think that there's been way too much overreaction to the draft. And what I think happens is we spend a lot of time thinking about in the offseason, and we're almost guilty of this too. We hype it up a little bit and we think of these dream landing spots and the perfect draft capital. So when it doesn't happen like we've dreamed it up, there's maybe an overreaction to that. In many cases, there's still some great landing spots and fantastic draft capital. The top 6 are absolutely elite right now, and we're seeing as many of go in the first 2 rounds of startups. So you're absolutely right on that. I mean, 3 QBs go in the top 4. That's incredible. I don't think we've seen 2 running backs go in the top 12 in like 7 years. So incredible first round, but I think that we're overstating a bit on day 2 and overreacting a bit to the extent, as crazy as this sounds, I didn't think I would say this, but there's some values now to be had in rookie drafts. After those first few picks, a lot of the Twitter community and a little bit of the dynasty community has overreacted to the extent you may want to just try to trade in there and pick up some of these guys. Remember, this is a long game. Okay. Year 1, Audi. That's the case every year. Hate to break it to everybody. Not all these rookies are going to start out of the gates just balling out. And so you got to think about this. And I was really surprised. This is the surprise to me, if I had to break it down, was this year, it actually was a little bit better to sell pre-draft. We always talk about selling on the clock, with the exception of those first few elite picks. After that, it's actually been kind of a little bit backwards. It was a bit better, like stock may have peaked pre-draft for a few of these rookie picks. But hey, be a smart dynasty manager. Like Monk said, go get your guys, have some conviction that these guys are going to play out and just be the kind of that steady, guy going after value in your rookie drafts.
Well, before we get to our rules of engagement and everything like that, I mean, Mung, right now, I mean, we started this podcast, almost 3 years ago, and the move back principle in dynasty startups was not really all that popular. It was just move up, get your guys, go do those things, and we've really made it popular about trading back and doing the punts and doing the, year 1 rebuilds and all those kind of things. And now I'm finding when you do a startup, not many teams want to move up. Right now, a lot of times, not many people want to move in or move up in rookie drafts like they did in years past. Usually like I said, I'm in 13 right now. And the amount of move ups in the first round, I mean, I'm in 13 drafts and there were 4 move ups throughout that first round of guys trying to move into a different position. 4. I was 3 of them. So like it's not that popular right now. The other thing that I've been doing like crazy is I've been adding 24 seconds and a 23 third to move into John. This second round is incredible. I mean, like today I traded the 307 and a 24 second to move into 203 to get Jonathan Mingo. And then I did another one to get Charbonnet and some of those things. But Mung, I mean, is it a trend that we're seeing where just dynasty community in general is less aggressive when it comes to moving up in rookie drafts, less aggressive when they're moving up in startup drafts?
I think part of it could be, we've been hammering the tier idea in that it's not about necessarily the rankings, RB4 versus RB6, but that second tier or third tier. And other podcasts and websites and articles have kind of been hammering that home as well. So I think people are starting to get it where they're saying, I'm okay with Mingo or Mims or whichever other two wide receivers in that mid-second. So I'm not going to give up a third to trade up 2 spots, right? Unless you really have a strong preference. And I think you can zig while there's zag, right? If everyone thinks that certain players are in the same tier, then perhaps you do trade up when people think I can pick up an extra smaller pick or late round pick to move back a few spots. If you do, for example, I have Anthony Richardson in a tier of his own alongside Bijan, right? So I would need a significant amount to trade down from 102 to 103 or 104. But for a dynasty GM who views all 3 of those quarterbacks in that same tier, maybe if I have the 104, I do pay up, add a couple seconds to the 104 to grab a guy that I believe it in and who I have in a higher tier, right? Or another example this year is Zay Flowers, who's many people's wide receiver 4 in this class. But I have him as the 1B to Jackson Smith and Jigba. So where I have the 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, I'm willing to pay up a little bit to go get my guy if I do think that they're in a clear tier ahead. So while there may be fewer people actually willing to trade up when you're looking to trade back, maybe that, the less market there is for such a move, you can actually then trade up to get your guys in certain spots for a lot cheaper as well.
I absolutely love that. And I'm glad you brought up Richardson because I want to talk about rule number 1. So I put this out on Twitter as Dad's 5 rules for your dynasty draft. Rule number 1 is have a plan. So I think a lot of people go in and they're just like, I'm going to draft this player. I'm going to draft that player. This is what's going to happen. I'm thinking more of, John, you're coming out of, let's talk Smash 5 because we made a huge deal. You're coming out of year 1 into year 2 of that rebuild. So you're talking about what you want to do. I wanted to retool. I think when I talk about have a plan, it's not just like who I want in certain areas. And if you guys check, we have everything set up in tiers, but it's a matter of let's formulate what this looks like. So let's talk about the first one, and Mung, I want you to chime in a little bit more on it than obviously John and I. But John's coming out of year 1 rebuild and he's like, I want to compete. So he says to me, hey, I want Josh Allen. So I said, okay, right now I don't have a QB2. I only have Josh Allen. Let's make a deal. So I get Anthony Richardson at the 102 and Deshaun Watson, and he gets Josh Allen, the premium asset there. It works out for both of us. Talk a little bit about that trade. A lot of people are really leery about Anthony Richardson. He's my 102, no doubt about it. There's not even a question in any certain scenario there. But it's just, you have to have that plan. If John just walked out there and was like, hey, let's just pick these guys, it's not the same thing. You have to go into the draft targeting ideas, targeting not just players in that draft, but exactly what you wanted that to look like.
Yeah, and what I want is a quarterback who can run for 1,000 yards a season, right? I mean, those are just huge, huge difference makers in both real life and in fantasy. Look at the contract Lamar Jackson just got, right? That no one thought he was actually going to get. Prior to that, prior to the injury, Kyler Murray got paid a significant amount. He's a bit smaller, but he can still run. And I actually I tweeted this a few days ago, and I said, knowing what we know now, if you could go back and redo the 2018 rookie draft in Superflex formats, would you still take Saquon Barkley over Josh Allen? And I got a lot of replies saying, well, we didn't know that Josh Allen would develop like he did, right? We certainly didn't have any indication. We thought he was a raw passer. We didn't think he could last. But hey, look at what happened. And I'm saying that it doesn't even matter if Anthony Richardson isn't a great passer, because even in the first couple of years in his starting games, Josh Allen was a top 12, top 10 fantasy quarterback and top 5 in certain stretches of the season. So even if you don't have that long-term job security in a year and a half, if Richardson is running in touchdowns and running for 600 to 800 yards a year, people are buying in at that point. And at that point, you can sell. Whereas Bijan Robinson, as good of a running back as he is, we've seen that Jonathan Taylor's gone early in startups. And just a year later, he dropped 2 rounds. Same thing happened with Saquon Barkley. If you want to go back further, Ezekiel Elliott. Running backs are absolutely crucial to winning leagues, but you should buy them in season, right? We've seen year over year in the offseason, they continue to drop in value, even the elite tier.
Well, I think so. 2018, Baker Mayfield was actually the guy that was it Saquon or was it Baker? You know, and that was the crazy thing there, where a lot of people had that debate. The thing with Bijan Robinson, and I'm to your point, like I think Anthony Richardson is phenomenal, and I think he's going to have that high ceiling, and he's going to put himself in there. Bijan Robinson, guys that go top 6. 95% of them have had a top 5 to top 12 running back season within their first 2 seasons. You know, this is a guy that I think just absolutely has less risk, but that's usually the thing that I'm kind of looking at there. And I mean, that's splitting hairs when we talk about it back and forth, but Richardson is that guy. John, on our poll right now, it's 56 to 44 on the Richardson Watson side for Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. Personally, I think it worked out great for both of us. But talk to me a little bit about that plan process, right? Like you're coming out of that first year, you know, you didn't just say, and you and I've had 5, 6, 10 phone calls about it, like, hey, am I ready? Is this what we should do? You know, and I think our Dynasty listeners have to look at it a little bit differently, not just say, well, I have the 107 today. What's going to fall to me? It's, I have the 107 and this is my need, or I have the 107 and this is what I want to do with my team.
Yeah, I really think it is important that, you know, again, step one, have a plan. In my case, I was sitting with Deshaun Watson on my roster. He was that great punt candidate that lowered my potential points. And then I'm looking at this draft, right? And I know that there's going to be at least 3 QBs coming in. So, you know, it's not a smart roster build to have 4 young QBs, right? And they have premium value in Superflex. So I'm okay with doing 2-for-1 trades to make a massive upgrade to the, let's just say a top 3 easily QB and go make that my anchor and then go try to contend. I actually think, I will say this, I'm starting to realize it is very difficult to go from a punt to like a true contender in 1 year. I'm still going to kind of test it out and we'll see how things go. I'm sure we'll break it down, but you know, you got to then look at all these different assets and make sure that you have a plan. You know, I think that what you also need to do is find the other teams that make sense for you.
Yeah.
And like in your case, I knew you were kind of ready to retool a little bit. So you know that what you're offering the other team is going to make sense for them. Now, I will say this. I had a number of other trades that I had pre-wired and I thought were going to go through and some guys back out, right? So I kind of penciled that in. Okay, well, then I'm moving on to my contingency plans. Again, this is where I feel like, and, you know, shout out to the Smash 5 guys, but I think that many of them have overreacted big time to landing spots. And, okay, more value for me. We'll take advantage of those type situations.
That's where I was in
right?
3. I actually only traded the 106. That was the only one. I drafted the rest of them. The seconds. There wasn't much in there. And I think, so talking about moving to Smash 4, shout out to Brian Russell. You know, we did a trade where last year I finished 3rd, you know, and I was like in a decent spot. But much like Smash 1, where we've talked about this, I had Jalen Hurts, and I'm like, the rest of the team's old. I mean, it's really old. So I was able to trade I gave up Jalen Hurts. I got the 103 and the 24 firsts, 2 of them, of the guys that finished 109 103 and 104 last year. So I was thinking potentially mid, try to get that way and try to, again, having a plan where it was like, you know what, I'm going to execute this plan. I'm going to rebuild it. I'm going to move it into that section, you know, and I think that trade, he was ecstatic with getting Jalen Hurts. I'm excited to get Bryce Young and what I look to be as 2 earlier 24 firsts, and then obviously Caleb Williams, who we're going to talk about a ton now that rookie drafts are over, is going to be the closest thing to Mahomes that we've had, you know, like, and I'm just super excited to see what we can do, you know, with rebuilds, with punts, trying to make sure we get that 24-101. The second rule that we have as far as, you know, when it comes to your draft, and it's play the market. right? So Mung was already talking about it, zigging while other people zag. There was some scenarios where it was like the overreaction or underreaction to Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I think we just have to look at where the market is, what the market values are. That's why we talk about those things so much, and trying to understand where to move there. You know, like we've shown you guys what those values are of said players and how to move around. But John, there's definitely some areas that you can, you know, the trade that I have here is I got T. Higgins, Travis Etienne in the 107 for A.J. Brown and Kenneth Walker. So for me, I'm starting to transition off Kenneth Walker, obviously with Charbonnet. It's a matter of just looking at what has happened in the draft and making those adjustments early enough, right? I think a lot of times we talk about making adjustments and people are slow to make those adjustments. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen as far as market value and trades throughout the rookie picks that you've done.
Yeah, in my case, doing rookie picks and startup picks, and you can start to, again, coming back to see how the other teams are drafting and who they value. And if you're not sure, always get some conversations going so that you can kind of judge, all right, how are all these other teams feeling about the players that I might be targeting? And you might, for example, like Mingo better than the other guys, and you know that, so you can take advantage of that. In my case, I'm just going to keep repeating this, but I think that people are absolutely overreacting to this draft, and there's this groupthink that's kind of crept in to Twitter. And so there's all these values. Running backs and wide receivers that might just be slow out of the gates in their first year, but then down the road could potentially blow up. And you can kind of get into our Discord and kind of toss some ideas around, and everyone is kind of sharing what's happening in their leagues. So you can really form a pretty good idea of what's likely going to happen in a startup or a rookie draft. And so when things are, there's values that are slipping in the draft, you may want to trade up and grab one, or I have a tier of players that I think could be available, so I'm going to trade down. Mm-hmm. So it really is always important to be fluid. So you come in with a plan, but be ready to stay fluid, right? I mean, pre-draft, we have our rankings and tiers. Post-draft, we're gonna adjust. You have to respond. Now we know how the NFL feels about these players, so I'm not going to have any take luck. I'm going to adjust. I'm in the process of publishing my post-draft Superflex and Week 1 QB rankings into the Patreon here. So that stay fluid, keep adjusting your plan, and adjust to the market values, right? Don't get locked in on your plan to the point where you're rigid and your guy's gone, you don't know what to do. Kind of think about how to adjust to that, right?
13 drafts. Bijan's gone 1 in every single one. Richardson's gone 2 in every single one. Mm-hmm. Young has gone 3 in 11 out of the 13. Gibbs has gone 3 in the other 2. So those 4 guys seem to be right there in that same spot. Stroud and JSN, I've been in that area where if you need a quarterback, they seem to be that next tier. Those top 6, there across those 13 leagues, there has not been one variation. There has not been one person that's gone astray on that. Addison has gone 13 out of 13. Quentin Johnson and Kincaid, flip-flop 8 and 9 in every single one. Flowers and A-Chain have been 10 and 11 in every single one. So there is a chalk top 10.
Wow.
It's been very interesting. Like I said, I've been jumping up there for Jonathan Mingo. I am 13 drafts in. I have 9 shares. I think he in Carolina is going to be the wide receiver 1. He got the round 2 draft capital, and that's someone that I have literally traded up for and had conviction of. We talk about get your guy. So that's my rule number 3 is get your guy. I have 9 shares of Kincaid, 9 shares of Mingo, 7 of A-Chain, 7 of JSN, and 4 of Gibbs. Those are my guys. Those are guys that, we talk about it all the time, making sure you get into that area. Mung, a couple years ago, Jamar Chase was both of our guys, and we started backing off because of some news and things like that. Who are those guys that you're targeting right now that you would say are your guys? I mean, another guy that I've loaded up in the late second round, as late as 212, as early as 28, is Hendon Hooker. I've been just stockpiling everywhere, similar type value of when I stockpiled on Jalen Hurts and was like, you know what, in a year, this could be a huge investment. So who are some of those guys that you're just like, I got to get these guys. This is where I got to move to. This is who I want.
Yeah, I think I've been pretty vocal about Anthony Richardson already, so I won't beat a dead horse there. Zay Flowers, like I said a little bit earlier, is my number 2 wide receiver in this rookie class. A lot of people do not like the Baltimore landing spot, and I cannot figure out why. I think part of it is they've been so run heavy for the last few years, but with Greg Roman gone, it sounds like they re-signed Lamar Jackson to truly lead that offense. They've got Todd Monken, who just led Georgia to 2 back-to-back titles. A lot of zone read, a lot of downfield passing. This is an offense that I think is going to pass a lot more than we saw in 2022 or 2021. And on top of that, you talk about target competition. Odell Beckham's, 31 coming off an ACL. I think he said he had no ACL playing with the Rams. Rashad Bateman has had trouble staying healthy. He's coming off of a major foot injury. So I think Zay Flowers is ready for liftoff. I've talked about him quite a bit already. And one guy that I just wrote in my Sleepers article that you can find on Fantrax is Sam Laporta, who I have as the number 2 tight end in this class, not too far behind Dalton Kincaid. When we talk about rookie drafts this early, right after the NFL draft, I would look at different dynasty rankings across free and paid sources if you subscribe to any. And I would go off of those rather than ADP, because right now ADP hasn't settled yet. A lot of drafts are going to happen over the next week or two that could vastly change ADP. And that goes back to what I kind of opened with at the top of the show, which is get your guys, right? I just took Sam Laporta at 2.01 in the Smash Except One League during our rookie draft because I wasn't really sure where he was going to go. Sleeper had his ADP way down about in the late second, I believe. But this early on, I really don't know who's going to be following Sleeper or MFL set ADPs and who's going to go off different rankings and who's going to get their guys. So again, this early on, maybe if you're drafting in a league that does their rookie draft way later in July, August, I think the ADP will be more settled then, and you'll have league mates who kind of go off of that. But this early on, my advice is just to get your guys.
Yeah, and the ADP of Sleeper hasn't really caught up. He has gone 204 to 208 in every single one of the 13 that I've been. 201 would be the earliest there. And I've been trying to get in, but everybody's pretty sharp with that. You know, he goes right around that same area as the wide receiver 6 in Mims, or, you know, trying to get Kendre Miller, who I feel like just keeps going way too high up. John, Mung said something about ACLs. Your boy doesn't have any, but he tapes them all together. Tyjae Spears is someone where I know that's your boy, and he's been a value. I have gotten him as late as 212. He's consistently going 207 to 212. And, you know, I know Garrett Price has him still in his top 12. You still have him very high. How worried should we be? And he's still one of your guys. And let's talk about the rest of your guys.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really interesting scenario because he was pre-draft one of my guys, and you have to take that information in. But the thing about it is everybody has all this information. There's extensive medicals that are done. We just watched the guy with the exact same situation ball out at Tulane. And I think that the knock is, well, all right, he's really just going to be a one contract guy. Okay, maybe, but who isn't these days at the running back position, right? I mean, I'm turning up the contrast a little bit here. I understand that some of these guys in Dynasty will go on to their second contract, but they're kind of becoming few and far between, and they're usually dropping in value. So the peak value and when you want running backs, if you want to contend and win, is early on these rookie contracts. Like, that's how you win in Dynasty. And so I still have him as one of my guys, and I like the fact now that he's consistently available later. And okay, Derrick Henry's there for now. I mean, Tennessee's going through major changes right now. He's already been rumored to be traded. He's got 1 year left tops. Tyjae could step into the role. I'm telling you now. And he is an incredible dynamic playmaker. So what were you going to say there?
He might fit the mold of those running backs that we talk about, a 2 to 3 year window, because of, they're saying, you know, he's got some cartilage issues, some arthritis. But I mean, like, the PPR abilities of him mixed in, like, he's going to have day one flex appeal. Like, he's going to mix into that offense that looks like they're going to be trailing quite a bit. That needs some pass catchers. And I think he's a real value. Like, I wasn't in on him when you had him at like 112, but now we're talking 207, 208. And I'm buying in there because Kalugi put something out there of like which one of those running backs, between Kendre Miller, Zach Charbonnet, and Spears, like who's that guy you want in 2023? And I mean, Charbonnet is going to have a role, obviously, and Spears is going to be in there. And I think Miller ends up being the guy that's a little bit too expensive for what his role is. But I mean, you could see a scenario year one where Derrick Henry goes down and he could potentially have a nice solid RB2 season that you're buying in that late second because there's nothing else there. It's Hassan Haskins. Like there's not a lot.
Yeah. Well, there's very little in the entire offense. So he could get quite a bit of touches. And I got to come back to this really important point. Day 2 draft capital for running backs is so critical. We talked about it pre-draft quite a bit during the offseason, and he got it. Yeah. And that says that, these teams have reviewed the situation. They believe in him, and they made a pretty significant investment. So, I actually I'm higher on Kendre Miller than you are. I think that he's also in a pretty interesting situation, and he got the day 2 draft capital. And yet you do worry about, in New Orleans currently, a lot of mouths to feed with Jamal Williams and, of course, Kamara, but you got a potential suspension looming and, kind of an aging running back situation with both those guys. So if I'm looking into year 2, certainly year 3, Kendre Miller could easily be the lead back there. I think he's more talented in many ways than Jamal Williams. And again, a declining Jamal Williams. So I think that one's kind of interesting. And maybe he's priced fairly. I do think that Spears is a better value than Kendre Miller.
Yeah, Miller's going 111 to like 203, which to what I was saying about that is not that that I like Kendre Miller, the prospect, but there's guys that I won't buy because of where they are value-wise. It's just a matter of like, that's not where you definitely want to go.
Values.
And that's where you're right. Like moving back to Spears is huge value. People talk about that day 2 draft capital, but then they pretend that third round doesn't matter. It's second has to be so much better. It's once they go round 4 or after, you still have some of those people undercorrecting, saying, well, Zach Evans has a spot here. I was like, no, he went in the 6th round. You got to chill.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
A 20% hit rate after you get past 4th round. And that's low.
Yeah, and I'll throw one more out as one of my guys, and it's definitely Dalton Kincaid. In the Smash 5 rookie draft, I actually did overpay just a little bit to go back into the tier, just like you talked about, Mong. I traded up a couple spots to go get Dalton Kincaid, and I just really think he's special. I think I would have no problem taking him ahead of Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers or any of the other running backs not named Bijan or Gibbs in a tight end premium league. And in this case, it's 0.75 premium. So he could be special. I totally agree. Sam Laporta, he was going to be one of the guys I threw out. I picked him up. Don't be jealous too much here. I'm looking at this at the 205 in the Smash 5 rookie draft. I thought that was good value there going to Detroit. Those really could be tight end 1 and 2. I like Mayer, but I really like the situation Laporta's in. But again, in premium leagues, we've talked about it so many times. There's just so much underrated value, and I think you just kind of figure out how to unlock that. And so both those guys I'd be very comfortable with taking anywhere in the 2nd round for Sam Laporta, and certainly in the case of Kincaid, as we just heard, he's going kind of 109. Sometimes 108, somewhere in that range. I'm totally comfortable with where that early ADP has him landing.
And I'll be interested to see where he goes in Smash 10 because Zoltan was asking me last week on the pod, where do you have him? I said he's my tight end 5 above Freiermuth. I would literally take him over Goddard or Kittle at this point. I was listening to Dynasty Nerds, and Rich said he would take him over Kelsey. He said he would take him as the Dynasty tight end 1. That was the boldest take that I've heard.
I'll throw another one. Matt Waldman, in his post-draft RSP, go get that if you haven't already. He has him as his number 5 overall player in this class. Overall. So that tells you what he thinks about him.
That's phenomenal. So we talk about getting your guys and having a plan, and there is ADP out there. And when I'm in Smash 3, I'm like, all right, you know what? I have all these picks. I have so many picks. I want to start mitigating my risk, and I want to make sure I start getting some guys that I know are going to be solid producers. So when I got to 106, I traded the 106 and 205 for Chris Olave. I think what you have to look at sometimes is the mixture between the guys that did it last year, the guys that have been doing it, and the risk of a rookie pick, because quarterbacks, it's a 30% hit rate as far as guys that go in a super flex round one. Only 30% of them are going to be QB1s, and that's just the way it is, and running backs, it's more like 50%, wide receivers, it's in that 30%. But then you see a guy that is going to, a guy like Chris Olave, a guy like Drake London, some of these different areas. We talk about people having that rookie fever. Chris Olave, I have firmly in that 104 value. Here it's 106 and 205. Sometimes you can get your guy the other way and really cash in on, like, people want those rookie picks. They just, you have to know your league mates. We talk about that all the time, but you always have that one guy that has no picks but wants to come in and get a pick, right? And those are those guys that overpay.
Yeah, and generally speaking, I do want quarterbacks over wide receivers in superflex formats, but I don't think it's crazy to consider taking Olave or London over Young or Stroud, simply because we just don't see them run that much. And so really what you're looking at is, Joe Burrow's the exception to the rule, right? He's been hyper efficient as a pocket passer. He runs here and there. He's more mobile after, 2 years removed from the injury that he suffered. But at the same time, really, we're looking more like a Kirk Cousins type projection for Stroud and Young. And those guys are productive and important in Superflex, but they don't carry that premium value where you get elite top 5 upside. They would have to be just incredibly hyper efficient as passers to really achieve that kind of valuation. So if you do think Olave can become a clear top 7, top 8 wide receiver, if you think that Drake London, despite the volume concerns, can be that guy, then I'm okay with pulling the trigger on some of those veteran wide receivers, or even elite, running backs who are aging a little bit. McCaffrey, Barkley, these guys who might just be short-term answers for you at running back, but for contending teams, you're going to get a lot more out of them than you will a Young or a Stroud.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people want to put them in that athletic mold, but like when I was doing the comps for it, it was like a lower end Joe Burrow as the ceiling, but it's more like a Jared Goff, like a Jared Goff. And you said Kirk Cousins. And I think that's kind of what you're looking at, is guys that have a little bit of, everyone wants to make Bryce Young the next Kyler Murray, but just look at the athleticism, look at the 40 time, look at the way, he moves around and he's creative, but I don't think we're going to see him have 700-800 yards rushing. John, my rule number 4 is be patient. So that goes in multiple different formats. One, it's be patient on the clock. Like, you do not have to rush. The more I do this, the more drafts I'm in, the more I realize, okay, you know what? I got an 8-hour clock for a reason. We're going to play around. And I never take it that long, but I don't feel like I have to immediately pick. I don't feel like I have to be that guy, because things can happen. People can get off of work. People can, be on break and be like, oh, I got to make a move. And, like today in Smash 3, I was sitting there at 210 and I'm like, oh man, I don't love a lot of things here, and I'm like, what should I go with? And the guy, now I had already drafted Bijan. So he gives me the 210, he wanted the 210. He gave me Tyler Algiers and the 211. So to move back, I ended up throwing him a 25 fourth to get Tyler Algiers. He ends up getting Josh Downs, and then I got my guy anyways at the 211, which I was happy with. So sometimes you end up, if you make an immediate pick and you don't shop the pick, and I know Jason McGuire, I got to give him a shout out. He says there's 3 things in life: it's death, taxes, and Dynasty Dad's going to put this picks on the clock or on the block, because I do it every single time just to get an idea. And if you don't, you touch base with your league mates. Hey, anybody want this? And if they don't, sure, let's go ahead and pick, but be patient. On the flip side, John, don't be that guy in the group chat that's like, hey, pick, let's go, come on. Like, because I had all 12 of the first picks in Smash 3, people are like, come on, this should take 5 minutes. Come on. Like, this is, you had your whole time of enjoying the guys that I traded you. Now let me have my time. Let me have a little bit of my fun on the clock, because when this is done, ultimately, guys, and rule number 5 is enjoy the process. But when this is all done, we're like, dang, I wish we were still doing that, right?
You miss it. Yeah, for sure. I think that's really the most important thing is, yeah, of course we're playing for entertainment, we're playing to win, but this is almost like paid entertainment. I mean, the draft is always the best part. Really enjoy it as much as you can. And I encourage everyone, you have picks, don't have picks, get involved, jump in the chat, throw some offers out there. I was, again, I have to say, kind of disappointed with some of the leagues, because what happens is I think when you have all the picks, it kind of freezes everybody. Like, well, all
John
right,
still
I guess
got
this
PTSD
guy,
from
yeah,
Smash
yeah.
5.
It's just I was amazed how little activity was going on.
Yeah.
And, it just kind of like get involved.
Yeah.
Stay active. You never know when you might be able to strike a deal or find some value. Pay attention and just kind of have fun with it. Mix it up with the community there. And yeah, you're right. Don't push people along. Especially if you got multiple picks, in your case, you're forming your entire team. It's going to take a little time to put that together, but you always miss it when it's gone. So, in fact, I told the Smash 10 crew, hey, take the time that you need, but don't necessarily just take all of it just because. Like, you don't have to sit through 8 hours because it's there. Try if you're pretty much locked in on the pick, you want to go make the pick and then free it up for everyone else. But again, when it's over, everybody is like, damn, I wish, we still had a rookie pick going here or a startup draft going. So that's absolutely the right way to look at it. And just be cool with the league,
Yeah. And I think it's an art form of like knowing that, like sometimes, I reached out to a guy that was sat 8 hours on the clock at 102 and I said, hey, what's going on? He goes, I'm just sitting here waiting for offers. I'm like, no. The 8 hour window is like, hey, let's get some conversation going. Mung in Smash 1, which is as far as activity as talking, I mean, it's one of the least that we've had. But this is like, this draft time is that time where everybody kind of comes out, and this is your area to kind of talk to everybody and try to see where everybody is. And, like I talk about, like I put another tweet out there today, be kind and be courteous with this thing. Like have fun and be kind with it because you ultimately don't want to ruin a potential trade partner in the future because you're razzing somebody for saying they're taking too long or that they're having a bad pick. It's just like, ultimately we want to engage and we want to make sure we have a situation where in 6 months from now, we have a trade partner that we haven't ruined negotiations with. It's just been ones that we're, starting to have a budding relationship because this is a time where people have totally different evaluations on rookies and some people take offense right away.
Right. And dynasty trade offers on the clock are definitely an art more than a science, right? Because it really depends on the league. It depends on the league mates and it depends on timing. Like you said, as we're in the middle of the startup for Smash Accept 10, maybe I'll give a little secret that I don't necessarily want other people to use, but every now and again, usually I get a couple offers as soon as the pick's on the clock, but sometimes there's not much activity. And at that point, sometimes I'll tag everyone and say, hey, sent out a couple of counters when I didn't send out anything. And almost immediately, I will get one or two trade offers.
I better get in there. Yeah.
Yo, this guy, I at least said one before I do that.
Right, but it's just it's FOMO,
awesome.
Right? If someone's like, oh, there are people looking to trade up into this pick. Who am I missing here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I could get this guy. Maybe I should be trading up for him. Mm-hmm. So it's little stuff like that. Obviously, I don't say that all the time. Right. Sometimes I just say, hey, feel free to send offers if you're interested in this pick, something along those lines. But, you can throw in some comments here and there like that. Right. Or if you're saying, if you feel like someone who sent you an offer really, really wants their guy there, even if it's a really good trade and you're already getting pretty good value, sometimes you can say, hey, I really like a guy here. Don't say who, because you want them to always think it's their guy. Right. Whether it's Richardson for me, but I'll say, hey, Bijan to the Falcons, elite RB, right? What are you going to pay up for the 101 if I'm moving back? Even if I'm very happy to move back to 102 for a second round pick because I'm getting my 101 anyway. So it's really understanding the dynamics of trading and also the psychology of other GMs. And then, like you said, just be aware of the clock, right? I don't want to pressure anyone. But like you said, if it's been 4 or 5 hours and there have been 0 offers, then maybe it's time you just go ahead and make the pick, or at least if you send out some offers, right? Don't just be sitting there waiting for others to send you trades. But at the same time, again, pertinent example in Smash 10 earlier today, I was about to make the pick, but I said, hey, I'll give it another half hour. And I actually got another offer about 10 minutes after that from somebody who had just gotten on their lunch break at work. So again, it's timing that. If you're happy with making a pick, right? If you're not necessarily looking to move it, then maybe you just make the pick at that point. But if you really are trying to trade, even if there's nothing happening in the group chat, there could be a lot going on in the DMs. So just be courteous, like you said. Don't ruin those relationships with, hey, what's going on? Why haven't you drafted yet?
And there's a big difference between drafting at 107 versus drafting at 310. You know, like when I'm at 107, and John and I were talking about this, you know, pre-draft it was a certain player. In draft it became another player. But as soon as you pick that, you know, so at 107 that tier is Kincaid, Addison, Flowers, you know, Johnston. So when you have 107, that's worth a certain value. Because people are asking me, on DTC, why is 107 worth more than Jordan Addison? Because that's pigeonholed. That's exactly where you have to be. As soon as you pick Jordan Addison, now you eliminate somebody that wanted those other three. You know, so when you get to that area, you shop it and you say, this is what it is. You don't have to feel like, a lot of times people just, oh, I'm going to draft at 107 because everybody wants Jordan Addison and then I'm going to shop him afterwards. As soon as you make that pick in that same tier, you eliminate multiple dynasty owners who might not want to be in that same area. So that's why I say, especially if you're in the beginning of a tier, be patient in that area. Try to move back from 107 to 110. Try to move into those areas and just be patient, because you have to understand that once that pick is made, you eliminate trade partners. You know, not everyone loves individual players, but everybody loves rookie picks. John, let's wrap things up here, because I know we covered a lot. I'm excited for the next couple of months, you know, because we have things lined up with Snoog is going to be the full-time guest on Smash or Pass, you know, full-time co-host, sorry, not guest. He's been the guest. Now he's the full-time co-host. We're going to be getting analysts on every other week, back and forth between Smash Accept and Smash or Pass. So, you know, I'm excited for the next couple of weeks. We're going to break down these rookies more and more, but talk again about, you know, what you're excited about right now, anything else to add to the process, and then we'll go over to you, Mung.
Yeah, this is really still in many ways the best time of Dynasty. I mean, I love competing in season, but just assembling your teams, and now startups look completely different because we're intermixing all these rookies now. Enjoy that. And you know, take in all this news. I think that we're going to see a ton more trades. Remember, we got free agency that it's still going to hit with a lot of big names that are still out there.
Leonard Fournette.
Paying attention to this, right? Make your moves, try to get ahead of it, right? We're going to continue to break that stuff down right here on the pod so that you kind of have this immediate reaction. If you want like instantaneous reactions, then get in our Discord, and you got like a whole community that are breaking stuff down as it's happening, right? And I got to say, shout out to you, Dad. I mean, you've been putting in real work, including today, to get all these rankings up there, up to like down to 48 across every position. I'm certainly going to continue to take in all this information, listen to other experts, go back and maybe look at some things. Maybe I looked at this guy a little bit differently than the NFL did in the draft capital. Okay, how can I learn from that? I'm always trying to stay humble and you know, continue to learn. And that's what we're just all going to do that together right here on the pod. And I'm going to share everything that I'm learning and, you know, put my takes out there. I will say we've had a lot of success. We do have a formula. The process and the steps that we broke down tonight, if you listen through this and try to follow it, I think you'll be pretty successful most of the time. And okay, maybe you didn't win them all, but you can learn from that, and you will eventually win some. And you know, we have a lot of vets now in the community that have a lot to offer as well. So definitely enjoy the process, like you always say, and I know I'm certainly going to on my end.
I love it. You're always humble and hungry. You know what I mean? Like,
humble and
that's
hungry,
why
baby.
You and I talking about your year one punt, it just doesn't fit your mold.
I know.
Like,
I'm always just ready to go guns blazing and contend. That's my style. But you know, learning a lot.
Love it. Mung, what about you?
Yeah, I'm super pumped. Like you said, Smash 10 has been my first startup for over a year. And, you know, when you see during the NFL draft, right, they have the live cams in the different team rooms. And when they pull off a trade or something, you see everybody jump out of their seats and they're high-fiving and hollering. And that's how it is. I mean, even for me, pulling off a trade in a startup draft, I already stand up off my couch and I'm yelling. My wife's going, what's going on? I was like, oh, I just got this trade done. We're moving up to get Anthony Richardson or whoever it is. And so you can totally see why during the NFL draft, you see these entire rooms just erupt. And that's what it's about, right? You don't have on-the-clock trades in most redraft leagues. Very few redraft leagues have that. That's what we love about Dynasty, about roster management, about rookie drafts, and really getting to play the role of as close as you can be to an NFL GM. And like you said, step 5 might be the most important because we're all in this to make a little money on the side. We're all in this to maybe prove that we're smarter than our friends or coworkers or whatever. But at the end of the day, you got to have fun with it, right? And that's part of the reason why I say join as many or as few dynasty leagues as you think is right for you. I know of people who have 30 different dynasty leagues. I know you, Dad, you've got probably an even dozen at this point, if not more. And that's great. If you love constant activity, that's awesome. I can't keep up with all that, so I know that I need to stay at around 5 to 8. And whatever that number is for you, just make sure that you remember at the end of the day to enjoy the process, because this should be a fun process.
Yeah, I'm really excited with what you shared there because, like, Smash 10, I feel like it's that meme where you're like, John's got blinds next to him where the guy's, like, looking out the window, tears in his eyes, like it's raining. Like, I'm not in this one, right? I'm in Smash 1 through 9, and I figured, I got to make a cutoff sometime, like, these things keep getting more popular and people are loving it. The other thing that you said, and the biggest reason that we created the Discord was nobody, like when you talk to your buddies, you talk to your wife, you talk to your girlfriend, they don't care about your dynasty trades, but you go in the Discord and you say, I just got Anthony Richardson for this or that. And it's that mentality. We're all just in there sending gifts and like, it's the closest thing you can get to, drafting Jahmyr Gibbs and pounding the table and almost punching the GM in the face and jumping around and going crazy. So guys, this has been fun. Enjoy your rookie process. And thanks again for tuning in and enjoy the entire process. Boom.